I'm talking G.I. Joe, a real American hero. I'm going over the covers for G.I. Joe from Marvel Comics, issues 1 through 50. Here we go. My name is Bernie Gonzalez, and I am a comic book writer and artist. And in these videos, I like to share some of the comics that influence my work. And certainly as an 80s kid, G.I. Joe was a big influence in my storytelling, in my artwork. As a kid, I certainly grabbed my parents, dragged them through the aisles of Toys R Us, and tried to find every figure, every action set, every headquarters that I could try to get them to buy for me, whether it was G.I. Joe, Transformers, Silverhawks, you name it, all of those great classic 80s cartoons and toy lines that are out there. And of the many that have survived, that have made an impact on many people, G.I. Joe is certainly one of them. And in this specific video, I'm going to go over the G.I. Joe, a real American hero, Marvel Comics series. And specifically, I'm going to go through issues 1 through 50. I've got issues 1 through 100. Figure might as well try to break them down, go over some of them in a little bit more detail, at least in the covers, and just give a sense for, the characters that are featured and why this series has become such a classic for many people like myself, people who discovered it when it was first released in the 80s and even to the present day. So a little bit of a history. So G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, published by Marvel, was released from 1982 to 1984 for a total of 155 issues. The comic series was essentially a promotional tool, a TV commercial for the toy line, and ironically enough, what's unique is that this comic series was also promoted by TV commercials. So imagine that, commercials on TV promoting a comic book series. Pretty awesome. It was different in tone than the cartoon, and that's highly credited to Larry Hama, one of the writers on the series, who added that sense of realism, seriousness that was absent from the animated series. He used real guns in the comic book series versus the laser guns, laser rifles they used in the cartoon. Scarlet and Snake Eyes had a romance. Characters like Stalker had more of a spotlight in the comic series than they did in the cartoon. Tons of different variations, and figure let's go through some of these. Start off with a little bit of an explanation. So Tales of G.I. Joe was the reprint series, and they reprinted issues 1 through 15 under the title Tales of G.I. Joe. Only difference is that paper quality is a little better, a little glossier. I don't know if I would consider this to be Baxter paper, which I remember from some more DC series like Titans or Legion of Superheroes. Certainly much more glossy. This one doesn't seem to be nearly as glossy, but main reason I'm bringing this one up because I do not own the original first printing of G.I. Joe. A little bit out of my financial range, but still wanted to go through it because this cover is really the first cover that starts it all. 1982, perfect setup, shows everything here. We've got, was that Flash, Stalker, Scarlet, pretty sure that's Zap without the helmet, Steeler, I think that's the Mobat tank, and you see all the characters here, representing, like it says, the saga of America's greatest heroes. Great first issue cover for everyone that was just figuring out, what is this supposed to be about? Issue 2 cover, we see what appears to be Alpine, Commando, or as we know him now to be Snake Eyes, and I believe this was the issue that introduced the Eskimo Quinn to the G.I. Joe mythology. You have Herb Trimpe here on the covers, and I'll mention, some of the artists that worked on the covers, on the cover artwork, include Russ Heath, Marshall Rogers, Todd McFarlane, Don Perlin, who worked on, if I remember right, Werewolf by Night, might be the co-creator of Moon Knight. Also, Ron Garney worked on Spider-Man and Silver Surfer. Frank Springer. So you have quite a few different artists. Lee Weeks, I have to remember that, and Andrew Wildman, the Wild Man, towards the end of the comic book series here. But a lot of contributors to G.I. Joe, a real American hero. All right, let's move on to number 3. Got looks like to be G.I. Joe Grunts here, and Scarlet stalker here in the background. So as a kid, you couldn't help but collect the grunts because you wanted a small army of these guys. So you had your named characters in the foreground. They were obviously the pilots of the cool vehicles, but you always needed a few soldiers, a few grunts to put around all the Mobats, the Vamp, all the different vehicles that G.I. Joe had. And opposite side, you also had Cobra. In this case, it looks like they're fighting a Cobra robot. Cobra always had some pretty cool, pretty technologically advanced weapons, including the bats, which I think are actually featured in one of the covers here later on. Issue number 4, again, you get a little bit of the whole crew here. You get Flash with the visor down. You get Rock and Roll with the yellow there. Pretty sure that's probably going to be Clutch, although you would think from the beret there that it's Flint, but I'm pretty sure that's Clutch. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. But look at that. Look at that Snake Eyes. Looks so different than everybody else. Just looks awesome. Great character design. You got number 5. Again, that's the Mobat, pretty sure. G.I. Joe. And I don't know. You could almost say it's probably going through, yeah, Central Park. There we go. Trying to scare off a few of these Cobra infantry. Which, again, if you went down to toy aisle and you saw the 2 figures, sure, the G.I. Joe figures looked great, but some of the designs on these Cobra figures, Cobra Commander, Destro, the infantry, obviously Storm Shadow, Zartan, the Dreadnoughts, some of those designs were just amazing, even if they were the terrorist organization known as Cobra. Speaking of, here's Cobra Commander, and got the chrome helmet, awesome reflection. See the Joes on one side, and then you see the Soviet equivalent of G.I. Joe, the October Guard, on the other side. And can't go wrong with a little Kirby crackle on the ends. So good way to kind of compose this, to kind of frame out this image. Have the assumption that there is a wall. Little do we know both sides are going to meet each other. Looks like a 2-part with the October Guard. Come back again, but this time opposite. Whereas before they might be coming at each other. Now they've got each other's backs, literally, as they're facing off against what would be an enemy towards a bigger enemy in Cobra. Another Tales of G.I. Joe cover here for issue number 8. Again, that's probably the Vamp. Looks like that could be Steeler with a gray helmet. Could be Breaker. I'm not sure. But again, you always had Cobra with some pretty interesting designs, technology there. And you would almost say that looks almost like Snake Eyes, but not 100% sure what's going on there on this cover. But again, interesting pink horizon line there. Kind of cool. Interesting. All right, let's go to issue number 9. You got Scarlet fighting what seems to be on a beach, Cobra Helicopter and Cobra Trooper trying to kick her off. You've got some bystanders here. Great composition. If I saw this on the shelf of a Venture, a Zare, a Kmart, that's usually where I saw a lot of these comics, a Woolworth. This would be a great cover to pick up because what's going to happen to Scarlet? We don't know, but I have to find out. So great cover design. Love that. Speaking of cover design, look at this. Tales of G.I. Joe 10. So it's issue 10 of the regular series. Welcome to Springfield, a nice little town. You've got Snake Eyes and Scarlet seemingly taking in what seems to be the sort of idyllic, 1950s maybe type of town. But we find out is that not only is the town fake, they're certainly in peril because Cobra's hiding behind one of these, fake walls. So maybe Springfield is not the nice little town you would expect. But again, it tells a story just strictly from the cover image. You think it's one thing, even the characters think it's that by their expression. But we as the viewer, as the audience know that things are not what they appear to be. All right, issue 11. I know this one has first appearance of quite a few G.I. Joes past that first wave of Real American Hero. This one features Snow Job and Doc, but then we also get Wild Bill, Gung Ho, and Destro. And got the awesome Cobra glider. If you remember that as a kid, it was made essentially of like a vinyl cardboard type thing with little plastic pieces. So it was really easy to bend, easy to break. But I love the Snow Job almost strictly for the sort of snow vehicle kind of thing. I forget what it was called, but it was really awesome. And if you can tell, this issue is very well loved. Issue 12, there we see Gung Ho, and looks like missile's about to hit. Not necessarily the best composition. Feels like this could be a lot more interesting. I mean, I see the Rattler, or the pieces of the Rattler, as it's almost flying off the screen, having dropped this missile that presumably is going to hit this, causing all the Joes to disperse into the water. But, you know, as a kid, again, this tells most of the story, so gotta love that. 13, look at that. Rock and roll, back of a taxi, Stalker with the Uzi, Scarlet with the handgun, taking shots at what is probably this Cobra vehicle, trying to make their way towards, almost seems like a bomber or some sort of carrier plane whose back is open. Not 100% sure based on composition here. Everything doesn't seem clear, but there's a lot of action and kind of a, you know, nice simple way of rendering the propellers here with some of those scribbles just to denote the movement. It could just be my cover here. It almost seems like there's an overlay on the ink lines here compared to the more foreground ink lines. These are darker. Those are a bit lighter. They almost have like a bluish, maybe like forest green hue on top of them just to separate foreground and background. But either way, kind of interesting. Here's my man, the arms dealer Destro in issue 14. And you've got the APC. I think that's a armored personnel carrier. I always wanted that as a kid, never had it. Had some neighbors that did have it, and boy, you could load that up with G.I. Joes, and in this case, that's exactly what's going on. Field of battle, Cobra going off against G.I. Joe, Destro seemingly leading the charge there for Cobra. Moving on to issue number 15, we've got Snake Eyes in a similar predicament as Scarlet was just in a few issues ago, except this time, instead of a Cobra helicopter, appears to be probably some sort of a Cobra doctor, somebody, and they're trying to kick him off the plane. So can't be good for our Snake Eyes there, for our Commando. And I say that because that's how I remember him being in those first that first toy line, where they were just like laser rifle specialist or communications specialist, or in Snake Eyes' case, he was just Commando. Wasn't Snake Eyes just yet. All right, let's move on to issue 16. We've got Clutch facing off against Destro, literally mano a mano. Meanwhile, you've got Cobra Commander sporting this really cool jacket. If I do remember right, in this issue, Cobra Commander actually shoots Hawk in the back. So again, that was the big difference between this and the cartoon. You would actually have violence. You would have combat, more realistic combat that was infused by Larry Hama's own background. He was a Vietnam veteran. He'd written the file cards for the G.I. Joes and infused them with a little bit more psychology and just realism that was absent from the cartoon, and that's what was happening to this. There was romance, there was drama, and there was real loss. Issue 17, Major Blood. Looks like he's maybe kidnapped a bus, and along the way, G.I. Joe trying to stop him before they get to this toll. But, you know, again, as a kid, you see this and you want to know what's going to happen. Are they going to be able to get these people off this bus safely? You only know if you pick up the issue. Issue 18, two awesome villains here with this kind of cool like Kirby Tech wannabe terminal. So you've got Destro seemingly almost walking away while Cobra Commander is taking in this view of what seems to be these Joes that have maybe even captured a Cobra trooper. Again, the view, the color choices work fine. But, you know, again, as a kid, you see this and you've got two characters that are probably in your toy box on here, and you'd want to pick this up for sure. All right, 19. Got Destro riding a hiss. A few grunts, a few Joes in the foreground running away. Cool corner box, kind of interesting. Issue 20, looks like Clutch. Yep. Going home the hard way, taking a fall. Lots of, seems to be like a running theme here on some of these issues so far. Only 20 issues in, you've got 3 issues where Joes are falling to their doom. All right, famous issue. G.I. Joe number 21, as you can tell, a very well-loved copy. The most unusual G.I. Joe story ever, also known as Silent Interlude, talking March 1984, issue 21, written by Larry Hama, breakdowns by Larry Hama, and finishes by Steve Lealoa. And it is famous because, as I flip to a random page here, another few pages here, there are no dialogue, no word balloons. The entire story is told silently and incredibly effectively. All right, G.I. Joe 22, you've got Destro holding what seems to be a incorrectly colored Rattler. I mean, come on, every Rattler I know is kind of that dark navy blue. But in the previous issue in 21, at one point, Destro is looking at a chessboard that I have to imagine has to be custom, made of different Joes, as he's, thinking strategy and moving pieces around. And literally in this case, he's playing almost like a kid with a toy, taking the Rattler, shooting down the Joes, moving them into position. And kind of morbid here, you even have one coffin there with the flag on it. So could be that one of these Joes are literally in his sights. Issue 23, got Clutch and Roadblock and hooded Cobra Commander. And the coloring is really interesting because all of Cobra Commander is in black. So you have what I would imagine are these line holds in a slightly brighter blue that represent the ripples in the clothing. Very cool, very different so far from everything we've seen on these covers. Issue 24. Oh yeah, I mean, look at this right here. So much good stuff here. Cobra Commander on one of the more fancier gliders. We're not talking cardboard now. This whole thing, it had a ton of little pieces, and they always seem to break off, but I love that. Got Storm Shadow, got Roadblock. Oh yeah, this is awesome. 25. This one has a number of first appearances as well. Firefly, Zartan, Wild Bill, the Dreadnoughts, which I'm pretty sure Buzzer, Ripper, and Torch. And you've got Wild Bill here flying the G.I. Joe Dragonfly, Cobra Commander driving the, I think that's the Cobra Water Moccasin. I think this kind of hydrofoil thing. I loved this one just because it had these cool weapons. It also had a turret that would revolve around, and then it had little spots here where you could put the figures, and you could just do kind of like a water invasion thing. I don't know. This was a great vehicle. Never had the Dragonfly. Knew kids who did, but you put these two on the cover for an issue like this, you just know this is going to be a great issue. And on top of that, who is this guy? Maybe by this point he's been introduced in the series. I'm not 100% sure. Zartan. The timelines for the comics and the cartoons were a bit different. They didn't really introduce these characters little by little in the cartoon after the first two miniseries, which I'm pretty sure were The Mass Device and The Revenge of Cobra. After that, you started seeing a lot of characters get introduced pretty quickly into what was probably 1984. So in the comics, though, we get them kind of trickled in little by little. And in this case, we get Zartan and the Dreadnoughts. Issue 26 here, we start seeing into the background of Snake Eyes. And that was always really interesting because in the comics, Larry Hama was not afraid to delve into the background, the mysterious background of this character. And again, Larry Hama introduced martial arts, Eastern philosophy into G.I. Joe and into the background of Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow as well. So we start kind of seeing a little bit about this, and we get the manila envelopes. Just again, if you're a kid and you're growing up and you love Snake Eyes, then you would want to pick up this issue because you find out something about Vietnam, Love. It looks like Love's sister. You get the Arkashagi. I always mispronounce that, so if I got it wrong, I apologize. But you've got, seems to be like a pin of the tattoo that he has on his arm. Family wiped out in a flaming wreck. So a lot of background here about Snake Eyes that certainly as a kid I would have loved to know. All right, issue 27. I mean, come on, look at this. This is beautiful. I'm fairly sure this is Lee Weeks. I'm not 1,000% sure, but pretty sure. You've got Storm Shadow kicking Snake Eyes out of an elevated train. You've got some line holds here to separate the zooming train from the background. You've got the Dragonfly in the background. Scarlet's going, oh no. Snake Eyes seems to be taking a fall to his doom. Wild Bill riding in the background, just seeing the saw. Everything about this, just amazing. Love this cover. 28, got the Rattler here. Again, kind of weirdly colored because it's not in that dark navy blue that even the helmet of the pilot there has. Going against it seems to be a G.I. Joe Mobat, so toy-on-toy action, vehicle-on-vehicle. 29, got Destro in the foreground. This one is really interesting because you've got what seems to be all of these airbrush type effects from shooting what I would have to imagine is the turret of his tank. And you've got some really interesting line holds, not only in the foreground here. And if you see this difference on some of these guys is that if you saw the Snake Eyes, rather, it looks like Snake Eyes, doesn't it? The Spider-Man cover versus the barcode, that would be the difference between, say, like the direct market or the retailer market. So this you would probably find at Kmart, that you would find potentially at a comic shop. But again, back to this. Looks like Roadblock is holding up a tank door of some sort, at least enough to take the barrage of the Hiss turret gun. And meanwhile, you've got Duke there, and he's trying to take aim. But the way this is all done, the colors, is really, really interesting. Really well done. Wow. All right, issue 30. Talked about the Dreadnoughts before, and here they are making their way onto the cover. You've got Buzzer, guy with the chainsaw, Torch with the flame torch. You got Ripper here. Seems like they are taking apart a Sky Striker. If I had to figure this out, they're just, they're just doing what the Dreadnoughts do. All right, issue 31. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful cover. You've got Destro, this sort of ominous pose. I love the line holds on some of this here. It has like this really nice, rich, purplish hue. And then in the foreground, you've got Snake Eyes. Obviously, Destro has him dead to rights. Cool guns, cool pose, cool coloring, everything about this. Beautiful cover. Wow. And then from that, you go to something like this where Zartan looks very strange. Very strange. This one is a Frank Springer cover. And I know he did a few covers here and there, but you've got, looks like Ripper and Buzzer. Just, the yellow is kind of interesting, but a little forgettable compared to the last one. But, I mean, wow. Then you get this. 33, got Cobra Commander again in the hood. Beautiful expressions. You've got Storm Shadow there. Cobra Trooper reacting to this grunt, seemingly gun in the crowd, maybe like an assassination attempt. Love this, the rendering of the wood. Everything in here just beautifully well done. Wow. Issue 34. You've got probably like Ace, maybe Scarlet, can't tell, maybe Lady J. And they're in a Sky Striker attacked by a Rattler. Not the best composition. I mean, the colors are interesting just because it feels like, they could be flying over a desert, to the sky. That's all right, but it feels like everything's kind of squished unnecessarily, but kind of cool. See the gun on the Rattler. You've got missiles going, so it may not end well for our Joes, considering that looks like they've already taken a bit of a beating there. 35, Dreadnoughts back on the cover with an interesting design on this one. Looks like this one is John Byrne. So John Byrne, his contribution, Torch, Ripper, Buzzer, and kind of this interesting, I don't know, I would imagine just filling that in with some very heavy brush, ink brush, that also has a overlay on top of it to give it that rich purpleness that previous cover had. But also easy way to not have to draw the background. But kind of interesting. Love the line work here on the tire, and even the color choices here. Beautifully done. Love it. And the expressions are great. Okay, going back to that interesting design on this one, where you see this Cobra Vehicle, and you've got G.I. Joe Vehicle facing off with a few Rattlers in the background. Again, the sort of airbrush technique, really separating foreground and background. Background elements are a little bit lighter, certainly in the case of that Rattler, much lighter, but interesting technique on this one. Really like the richness of the blues, and against the pink, really complementary colors. 37. Speaking of complementary colors, green and yellow would normally look really nice, but because this looks almost a bit jaundiced, a little too light, doesn't pop as much as you would want, especially when you have on the cover one of the brothers that's either Xamot or Tomax, one of the two, and seems to be Flint jumping off to tackle him off as a dragonfly. But again, great composition. Love this. Lots of dynamism, jumping off, trying to get him. You would almost imagine, is he going to open fire? Is he going to hit him? Is Flint going to get him in time? They're on a roller coaster track. What's going to happen? I got to know. I got to buy this issue. 38. Looks like Destro and Storm Shadow having a face-off. And again, love the composition. You got the little glare coming off Storm Shadow's sword. Everything's just here really beautiful. The yellow background, keep it simple. If you saw this, it stands out. If you're designing a comic book cover and at a time when you have a lot of competition, you have to do something to stand out. The yellow would definitely make this pop against likely all the grays and browns and blues that are surrounding it. This is a great decision. And again, just good composition. Two characters who should be on the same side facing off. Love this. Issue 39. Kind of opposite, where now you've got two characters that are not standing out, rather they're hidden, and it makes sense because of the camouflage. So if I had to guess, maybe that's Gung Ho. I think Leatherneck was introduced much later, certainly Stalker, but you know, definitely doing leaning into what G.I. Joe soldiers would do, which is hide in camouflage, wait, and make sure that they can use their best advantage. And in this case, that's what they're doing. So you could almost imagine if G.I. Joe is here, Cobra must be on the other side of all this foliage, maybe on the other side of a swamp or the jungle or something. But again, leaning into the fact that, yes, this is a toy line, it's a cartoon. These are also real soldiers. Or real American heroes, at least, right? All right, issue number 40. Love this. Got the smoke coming off of there. It's got that cool, like, kind of Art Adams, you know, kind of pillowy type of smoke coming out of there. Love the colors on this, the facial expression, just really well done. Wow. Issue 41. Pretty sure this is Todd McFarlane. I'm not 100% sure, but you've got you've got Snake Eyes, you've got Gung Ho, you've got Roadblock, the Minesweeper guy, forget his name, but look at that expression on his face. Obviously, whatever they're fighting, you know, the color choices, the pink, very interesting. Background is a little bit too much, I would say, of a bit of a brownish mess, when you could probably have it stand out a bit more, but nonetheless, cool to see all these characters in peril. You want to know what's going on, especially when you've got bandages on most of them. So looks like whatever they're fighting has definitely been getting the upper hand. Issue 42. Look at the mystery. Love this. Just makes you want to pick up this issue and find out what's going on with Storm Shadow and who is he about to attack. 43. Wow. I mean, compared to all the other covers where we've seen G.I. Joe or Cobra characters, this here is just haunting. Feels more like EC Comics Tales from the Crypt, but still feels like it's in line with G.I. Joe. And the red just striking against the yellow logo there. Love that. Wow. Beautiful there. All right, I thought I'd mention the Battle Android Trooper before the bat, and I believe this is the first appearance. Looks like trying to run down Lady J off the road, but again, good composition, great expression on Lady J's face. You don't know what's going to happen here. You got to pick it up to find out. 45. Got Zartan here, seemingly getting the advantage over Joe, a grunt of some sort, and love this. G.I. Joe soldier with the gun moving forward in here. Meanwhile, in the background, you've got Zartan with the bow and arrow. Very, very cool. All right, well, speaking of cool, look at this. Wow. I mean, start off with some place that might not expect me to start with, which is the green logo. The fact that they have different logo treatments for almost all the issues is really interesting. Sometimes it's incredibly complimentary. Other times it's just kind of interesting choice in this case against the yellow. Sure, I mean, that makes sense against this orangey frame. Sure, but I mean, come on, we've got Snake Eyes, we've got Storm Shadow in this sort of bluish tinted. I wonder if that's again based on the action that's happening, where it's really just his white outfit costume. But in this case, we're seeing the blue because of the way the shadows are working. But either way, awesome cover. Love that. Wow. And from that cover, we go to basically a cover meant to sell you on all of these, what is new characters. So this is the, I think, first appearance of Beachhead Wetsuit. Hawk's been in there for a few. This is the Devilfish. I remember having that as a kid. Interesting, just the way the knees work and the way Hawk's face looks. Everything looks just a little off. Beachhead is fine. I mean, the way that sort of, almost not even sure what kind of texture that is, but for Beachhead, having had the figure, seeing the animated character, that looks right, but there's something off a bit in the way that Wetsuit and Hawk, the way they're composed, the way they're laid out, it looks a little off. So, but either way, interesting cover. All right, then you've got 48 with Zartan holding Gung Ho as a prisoner. Seems to be G.I. Joe headquarters. This is where a cover does a lot of heavy lifting to try to entice a potential buyer to pick up the issue. And if you're a kid and you're trying to get a reason to pick up the issue, the cover artist gave you a lot of reasons here, because we know Zartan has infiltrated G.I. Joe headquarters. He's got a Joe prisoner. Seems to be making his way through the different levels. So a lot of stuff here that just makes you want to pick this up and find out what is going on in this issue. I need to find out. All right, second to last in this review here, 49, Destro, Dr. Mindbender taking a mummy. Not sure if this was around the time that Arise Serpentor Arise began in the cartoon series, where they were globetrotting, trying to find different genetic pieces to make Serpentor. But one of the great things about G.I. Joe is that as much as you had military action, you also had some ridiculousness, and you had Indiana Jones types adventures, UFOs, underground Egyptian gods, a little bit of everything. And in this case, you could have some tomb raiding as well. But good color choices on this cover. Love the design. Kind of looking behind them as if, maybe there's something supernatural here. And that's a great thing about G.I. Joe. You could have both. You could have supernatural in there as well. All right, issue 50, last one of this review. Giant-sized issue, sneak preview of G.I. Joe Special Missions. And I do have all of those 28 issues of the Special Missions spin-off, so I might have to do a review on those covers, because those were some really good ones. But almost like a callback to that previous issue where we saw Welcome to Springfield, a nice little town, and this time it seems like maybe there's been some devastation, something's happened. G.I. Joe's rolling in, taking in all this damage, and obviously it's a battlefield. Mike Zeck, known for The Punisher, did this cover, but a lot of storytelling here, and also setting up special missions, and also a big issue in the fact that got to number 50. And again, the series goes through issue 155. I'll have to go through issues 51 through 100 in another video, but yeah, just wanted to go through some of these to share some of these amazing covers, and feels like this one's a good as any to have on the sign out there. So if you enjoyed any of these, please let me know. If you have a special cover or favorite cover from G.I. Joe Real American Hero, issues 1 through 150, let me know. Might be kind of cool to flip through a few issues and kind of see if the cover holds up to the interior art. I would say probably not all the time. Some of these covers are meant to sell comics, and the inside's meant to be you got 30 days to tell the story as quickly as you can, as best as you can, because we've got to sell books. So it doesn't always translate, but that's why I wanted to go through some of these covers, just to highlight some really good work that influenced me and certainly got me to spend some money. So thanks for watching, and until the next time.